Hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show. I am your host, Michael Mamas. Ancient Secrets Revealed, by the way. We're coming to you from Mount Soma, home of the Sri Someshwara Temple in the mountains of Western North Carolina. Before we get started, boy, it's been a crazy week. How you doing, Scotty?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. It's been crazy here too. I think it's crazy about everywhere.
Well, some people say that the transits of the faster moving planets do have a noticeable effect. Some Jyotishes say really only pay attention to Saturn and Jupiter because they move more slowly and there's time for the effect. But I don't know. I know Mars is really strong right now, and it sure feels like kind of a Mars time, doesn't it, Scotty?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of like on edge, ready
Yeah.
to bounce.
And we're trying to do this kitchen remodel at the student union, and man, it has been frustrating and challenging getting the contractor going, getting the subs lined up, getting the county. I mean, we've had several times they've come out and examined the well, for example, and said, oh, the well's fine. And then another guy from the county comes out and says, oh, no, the well's not fine. You got to do this. So we run out and get the stuff to do that, bring it back to Mount Soma. And then when we get back, we have another email that says, oh, well, hold off on that because another guy's going to come out and check and he may have a different guideline. So I don't know, but if it was just that, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it's just so much. And, I was watching the, what was it? It was YouTube actually at first. And then I went and looked at, just like the television listings. And everything is pressure. Have you noticed that, Scotty, where if you go from one YouTube thing that you want to watch to the next, one of them is, eat this, another one is do that, another one is somebody who's incredibly talented. It's a talent show, like I forget what they call it, America's Got Talent or whatever it is. And all these incredibly talented people. And every time you turn around, there's got to be a part of that you interpret as just it's pressure. You either got to try to measure up to this and I guess, young kids, especially teenage girls, I guess, are having a really hard time because, do you measure up? Are your looks right? Is your weight right? Are you wearing your hair right? And then there's, of course, the whole thing with Facebook and all that early manipulation and the effects it's having on kids. And it's not kids though. It's the whole world. We even put pressure on ourselves, not making enough money or, need to do this to clean the house better or do that or fix this or fix that or improve yourself this way or that way. It's just too much. And then I realized, Scotty, that it's not, those are just symptoms of what? They're symptoms of the dirty fishbowl. When the fishbowl gets dirty, it puts pressure. It puts pressure on everybody and everything. Does that make sense, Scotty?
Yeah, completely. You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
And it's become so, lack of a word, we're just so used to it that unless you really, put some attention on it, you don't even realize that it's the dirty fishbowl, the whole world. And so How this ties into really what I want to talk about today is, standing back and taking a look, being able to stand back and take a look at the big picture of what's really, going on in the world. It's really going on in the universe. What's really existence is about. And we tend not to do it. We get, and by virtue of that, we get limited and confined by those pressures that dictate our lives to us. The universe manifested out of that, mathematically precise. Now, why do I always bring up mathematics? Well, it's a beautiful thing. The very structure of the underlying essence of existence, the unified field, if you will, the very structure of that is perfection. And we don't have to get off on, perfection and hear music playing and stuff, though you could do that. But even in a very literal sense, the mathematical perfection of the whole thing. And then that births relativity. But relativity, it's named well. It's called relativity because it's relative. And so we lose sense of that underlying field of perfection and get lost to the relativity of the dynamic of the manifest. And that creates imbalance. It's not imbalance. It's not functioning in that perfect manner that is the source of it. Am I making sense there, Scotty?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens? See, imbalance, you could look at it like it creates a vacuum. You could say, nature, you could say it this way if you want. You could say it creates a vacuum, or you could say nature doesn't like imbalance. It doesn't like a vacuum. It tends to fill it. And so how does nature go about filling it? Well, if it's a little bit of imbalance, it kind of can maintain itself, but then it gets more and more out of balance and more out of balance. And at some point, the vacuum becomes so great that it pulls that value of the inner intelligence, the perfection, it pulls it, or you could say that relativity collapses back down to it, falls back down upon it. It's realizing that the mechanics of what it's up to isn't working. And doesn't have to just be okay, we get that sort of a realization, but actually a realization on the level of physiology and the mode of function of the physiology of our life in the whole planet, the whole universe even. And so then it kind of reunites, remembers with that divine intelligence, that inner perfection that's inherent in its very nature. Now, what's really interesting, that value of perfect integration of all the different levels of existence, you could say that's the Vishnu value. Shiva is like the absolute. Vishnu is the absolute as it radiates out into all levels of relativity. And so what happens, and this is right out of the Vedic literature, okay? I want to digress there for a minute, but let's just say this first. What happens is that when the vacuum gets so great, that Vishnu value emerges. You could say incarnates, if you wanted to use that word, manifests even in a physical form in the relative. And so through the yugas, through the extended periods of time, when imbalance gets great enough, there is that incarnation, that avatar. And in the Vedic literature, it accounts for the different avatars for the different major time periods in the cycle of creation. The first avatar in that process is, see, and it maps, it correlates to, not, it maps, okay? So a little mini version of that, we could say, would be the stages of the evolution of Earth and species. You know, what happened first is we started with living beings, living creatures in the water, fish. And then it goes to, you know, this is just Darwin stuff, really. And it goes to, you know, the tortoise, a being that can live in the water and also on the ground. And then the next stage is a creature that lives predominantly on the earth, on the solid ground. And so there's, and that process is an echo of, a correlate to what in the Vedic literature talks about the 10 different incarnations of Vishnu. First being a fish, the next being a tortoise, the next being a boar, you know, like that. It goes through the process. Now, to the way we've been indoctrinated into thinking, really, that sounds pretty far out, you know. And what are they talking about? A fish that's an incarnation of God? I mean, that's too far. But what we want to do is understand the mechanic of it, understand how the universe works. And then in that context, because what would an enlightened fish even look like? I mean, what is that really about? We can theorize on that, and they certainly do. And there's certainly different aspects of the Veda that present that in different ways, which are all just different slices through the same one pie of the nature of existence. But the point is that when we get out of balance enough in our understanding of existence, then to reunite with it, it just sounds too far out. It's too difficult to really even comprehend. And I can understand how, you know, if we talk about the Vedas, Scotty, I can understand how people would hear that and say, oh, well, yeah, there's the people in, you know, the different islands in the Pacific and natives in Africa, and they all have their different, you know, paradigms and their different mythologies, their different legends of how the universe got created. And so isn't the Veda thing just another one? I can understand that. But if we can take a look at the subtle mechanic of the whole thing, and then we start to see, like, again, different slices through the pie. So there are degrees of clarity, of understanding of all these different legends. And, you know, they'll talk about how different parts of the world, they say, well, this is the center of the world, you know, and the Native Americans had a center of the world. I think in Java or somewhere, they say that's the center of the world. And all over the world, there are different places that all say they're the center of their world. So from our perspective, you hear that, and okay, there you go. It doesn't make any sense. But if you get a deeper understanding, and all this mathematics is explained in the Vedic literature, the easiest way to explain it is it's like the Riemann sphere, right, Scotty?
Right.
A circle with no center. It's just the circle, just the points on the circle. That's it. Where's the center? Well, mathematically speaking, every point is the center. It's equally the center. And on a three-dimensional sphere, like a tennis ball, a hollow tennis ball, Every point on the surface of that tennis ball is equally the center. And this universe, this manifest three-dimensional universe, is just added dimension to that. So there's a truth to it. You're the center of the universe. I'm the center of the universe. And so there are different levels of understanding of that whole thing. So the point being that the beauty of the Vedic literature, because it's vast. I mean, there's huge parts of it about mathematics, huge parts of it about language. It all maps. It's also seamlessly integrated. All the different aspects of it go together. I mean, this thing is coherent, and it's also not something made up. It's not something that is tangentially related to, like, we can all kind of get a sense that, oh yeah, there's divinity and there's a God and like that. But there can be greater levels of rigor and clarity of understanding of it. And where does that clarity of understanding come from in its culmination, if you will, for lack of a better word? It's called cognition. It's called cognition, where the very structure of existence, that field of perfection, is cognized, recognized, allowed to well up through the awareness and through the physiology and manifest as the Vedic literature. So it's all right there. And it's amazing that, again, I saw it just recently. They were talking about the history of the world and talking about different civilizations and how they contributed and like that. No mention of India, no mention of the Vedic literature. Whereas the amazing thing about India is that it did preserve those cognitions through the Vedic pundits with great rigor. And see, there's a difference between then rigorous understanding and fanaticism. Nobody would say that a cell phone is built based on fanaticism. No, it's rigorous understanding of the nature of the science of the thing. And that's the beauty of the Vedic literatures. It's the same. Now, there's also the subjective component to it, the heart component to it, the feeling component to it, which is seamlessly integrated with that. Okay? And it's all right there. And I hope that makes sense, There's so much that can be explained. Even the whole thing with, UFOs, I get a little frustrated because, UFOs are in the news quite a bit lately, and they talk about it and, well, are they coming here or where'd they come from and blah, blah, blah. It's all right there. You see, knowledge already exists. You are one with the unified field. And when you're one with something, that's how you really know something, provided your awareness, the windows of your perception are clean and you can perceive it. And so the knowledge of anything, because everything is one with the unified field and everything is born out of the unified field. So if you're really clearly one with the unified field, then you're clear with all manifestations of existence. And so the knowledge of the whole UFO thing it's there. Even instructions how to build a flying saucer. And so the bottom line with all of that is this world, and they're starting to discover this, the archaeologists, and that civilization has been around way longer than we have currently given it credit for. The pyramids are way older than 3,000 or 4,000 years. But people get so hung up on their view that they won't let it go. And even though the geological evidence is there, that all the water erosion and stuff, so that happened way more than, around the Sphinx, and that all happened way more than 4,000 years ago. But they still hold on to their perspective. So we've had civilizations tens of thousands of years ago, longer. They're even finding ruins now. It's got to be 100,000 years old and more. And so those technologies, flying machines, flying saucers, the whole thing. humanity had that. And then it's the whole cycle that we talked about in the incarnations of Vishnu, and the thing gets out of balance. And when it gets really out of balance, two different things can happen. One is it can get corrected just by re-enlivening it, or you can take out an eraser, and that's called Armageddon, and just start all over. And so both those things can happen. And we're on that crux right now, by the way, of the transition. And so that vacuum, that pressure that we're experiencing, it's intense. And you watch the news and you see what's going on in the world, and it is nuts. It's really ridiculous. And all that's saying is that these cognitions out of the Veda that said that right now is the time when there's going to be that phase transition, you know, it's right there, self-evident. It's in the Veda cognitions. And so what we're really all about is bringing about that transition in as seamless and as smooth a manner as possible. You know, Scotty, though, I can just hear it. I mean, if somebody listens to this, I mean, unless you've really studied it deeply and stuff, it can just sound like another flipped out mythological fairy tale. You know, Scott?
That's what you're talking about, like the secret doctrines or something, you know, where it can stay secret to you, even though it's there, but what are you doing to keep yourself from seeing it? Or
Yeah,
you know, it's just
the secret doctrines are secret because even after people read it, even after they hear it, it still really remains a secret to them. You know, people think they can pick up a book on the secret doctrines and read it, and then they get the secret doctrines. No. It's when the physiology becomes refined enough, and also the understanding. There's the experience, and there's also the intellectual understanding. And when you study, like the Vedic literature, for example, you study it enough, it becomes so clear and so well understood and so tight and so integrated and so seamless that you get to the point where it's like, yeah, this works. This is right. This is not the Looney Tunes, you know? So it's not fanaticism. It's science. It's the physics of the universe. It's the nature of the universe. You know? You know, you hear, and see, the thing does become elusive, though, because like there's the expression, oh, life is bliss. You probably heard that. Oh, the nature of life is bliss. And then there are other people that are like, hey, life is suffering, man, you know? And what's that all about? Well, if you're functioning in accord, and to really experience this, the whole fishbowl has to be clean. But if you're functioning in that complete harmony with nature, and if the whole world is in that called Sat Yuga period of where through all the different levels of existence, it's all functioning in harmony and with nature, then it is bliss. It's infinite harmony. But see, there's another component to existence, and that's called karma. Karma is just action. And the laws of karma, the laws of action. And they talk about how, well, what's the difference between an avatar of Vishnu and an enlightened human being? Well, it's like, to say it simply, an incarnation of Vishnu is like a body of pure crystal glass. Whereas for an enlightened individual, the body is mud. And so even though the individual's awareness may be functioning in perfect harmony with existence, that the body, including the mind and all that, there's a karma there. And that's why, you know, you look at the lives of some of these great enlightened masters, and I'm telling you, you can rationalize, oh yeah, well, no, they were really blissful and stuff. But the truth is they were suffering, man. There was a lot of hardship there. And particularly even more so in some regards, because they're the pivotal points. They're the light of God, if you will, shining through them into an arena of identity with a very different paradigm, a very different belief system, right? Making sense, Scott?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's the dynamic. You know, there's one group, Credence Clearwater Revival, you know, and they had that one song. The words were pretty interesting. I just happened to stumble across the lyrics, but there was one line in there, you know, who'll stop the rain, because it's talking about kind of how crazy the world is, and how I wonder who'll stop the rain. Well, this is what's going to stop the rain: is people aligning with, you could say it in a very religious way, their own divinity. You know, God. You know, you'll hear people say, even Christians on Sunday morning TV, God is the only answer. Well, there's a truth to that. But you know, the more rigorous we get with our understanding of it, I think the better. You know, so I think that covers what I wanted to say today. But you know, there is one other thing that I noticed on the news. Boy, it's hard to watch the news, you know. But Scotty, I think, you know, shouldn't a U.S. Supreme Court intervene if the justice system and the justices, the judges, become so politicized? Doesn't there have to be a check and balance there?
Yeah. It seems like it's getting so far out of whack that it's destroying the integrity
Yeah.
of the whole thing, I think.
Yeah,
In a way.
the justice system, it is supposed to be that final resting place to where, okay, any craziness that's out there and stuff, we got the justice system to say, okay, here it is. This is the way it is. This is right and that's wrong, you know. It's just not that way anymore, you know. It scares me because it makes me think of like, if you ever saw that movie, The Judgment at Nuremberg, with Spencer Tracy, you know, post World War II, and they were putting some of the judges on trial, and these judges they got way out of whack, you know, with the birth of Nazi Germany and all that, and then also Stalin and the judicial system there, same thing.
Right.
And boy, it feels like things are heading in that direction, you know. Even locally, I haven't done a lot. You know, I've done a fair amount of business just creating Mount Soma, but you know, you interact with attorneys and that, and it's very interesting to hear them talk, because you know, this judge is a good judge, that's a bad judge. Don't get this judge, and let's wait to, you know, before we move forward, because in 3 months there's going to be a good judge. And it shouldn't be that way, should it? You know.
Yeah.
I guess it's just human nature, you know. All right. Well, I think that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again next week.